Do you see my screen?
Good.
So I will start a little bit about myself, and then I move to the main presentation. And the presentation is not TED talk. It's not inspirational. It's just bullet points on the startup advisors. So I was born in USSR. If you want to learn about the country, this is the book you need to read because it's too much to talk. The Gulag Archipelago basically pretty much covers it. So I highly suggest it will open your eyes. When USSR collapsed, while in college, I opened the computer integration company. We were one of the Intel channel partners, regional Intel channel partners in Uzbekistan. In 2000, I left Uzbekistan for the US. In 2004, I opened my security company here in US. We were competing head-to-head with ADT. And in 2018, I exited the security company and started the fintech fundraising startup fundraising startup that helps you to manage your investors and connect you with the investors and basically drive the investors to faster decision, yes or no. So mostly for the no decision, because it's a lot of time you spend with the investors that already made up decision to say no, but kind of like prolonging the agony and communicating back and forth with you just to find the good moment to say no. So I also mentor at Founders Institute's accelerator since 2012. I helped to launch over 200 startups via Founders Institute accelerator. I invest in some startups. Right now I'm on pause, but this is a few of the startups I invested. Now Rex and Bandwagon is now dead. So it's kind of like brutal reality of early stage investors. Most of them will die. So we'll see how the rest of them will go through. And today, as I mentioned, goal is not to inspire just bullet points. What I want to cover is why you need the advisor in your startups. The number one is to fill the gap in your expertise. So most of the time when you go to the investors, and let's say you're from the fintech industry and you decided to start the fitness startup, and you're really passionate and inspired fitness person, and you know the problems, but investors say, hey, you have lack of credibility. So then basically you can get some advisor that have the credibility as a professional fitness instructor, and add this person as advisors to fill the gaps if there are any in your expertise, add the credibility. Number three is to help you strategize and brainstorm ideas. Number four is help you sell or promote your product. And number five is the partnerships. If none of those apply, you shouldn't have that advisors. And I will get down there if why it might hurt you down the road if you have the wrong person that doesn't really help your startup as your formal advisor. So startup advisors can be compensated by the equity most of the time, or by the cash. It severely depends how it is compensated. Sometimes you want some advisors and they know the startups mostly fails and they don't really want to volunteer your time, their time to you. So you might need to pay them with cash. Wherever you work with the startup advisors is crucially important. It's not just I brought it that it's recommended to do, but it's very important to sign consultant advisor non-disclosure and invention assignment agreement. Why is that? It's because down the road, if your startup is successful, there might be a legal issue with IP. So if advisors suggested you something, it's better to have it in writing that you own the IP wherever this advisor suggested and you implement it. So it's will not work with the informal advisors. So I will get down the road on that. You need to differentiate the advisor from influencers. The many startup founders mixing up the advisors with influencers, and influencers as advisors can be compensated in the equity or cash or both. So if you got the influencer on board, you should just set it as influencer. And with influencers, different metrics than with advisors. So for example, in this case, you can tell investor, hey, we secured Robert as influencers for our company. And every time he tweets something about our product, we have X amount of sales. And for that, he got X amount of equity and cash from sales. So basically, it's a different value proposition. It can be on your cap table, but you just need to differentiate it. So there is two types of advisors. There is a formal advisors and informal advisors. The major difference between them, the formal advisors going on your cap table. If advisor is informal, it's basically you can enforce the informal advisor sign consultant agreement because obviously it's all informal and advisor can't really push you for IP after that. But if you put the formal advisors, if you compensate it with the cash or equity, it's become the formal advisor, and what I mentioned before, consulting an IP assignment agreement is crucial for you to have on file. Not just for the IP. When you will go to fundraise the round, many investors will ask, hey, you have this person on your cap table. Do you have IP assignment agreement with that person? And it might affect the decision invest or not invest in your startups. So what I previously mentioned, since the formal advisors going on your cap table is you can put them on the cap. If they are on a cap table, you can put them on a presentation. If there is informal advisor, so for example, if you secure some well-known advisor, but you didn't sign with that advisor any compensation agreement, and he's not on your cap table, you can't really put them on your presentation. So most importantly, the advisors needs to add value to your company. If there's, as I previously mentioned, if it's no value, when you will go to investors to fundraise, the investor will ask why he is doing here, and there is a critical decision investor needs to make. And if you think that you're picking the wrong people for no reason and just giving them the equity, the reason might be a decision to not invest in your company. If your advisor is a well-known investors or person who have the capital to invest and didn't invest, it's a red flag for investors. So for example, if you get the Melanie Perkins, CEO and co-founder of Canva, as your advisor, and you put her on a cap table and she didn't invest $1 in your company, it will be a red flag for most investors. They will basically say, hey, this person, if she believed in your company that much, why didn't she invest? And most investors will make a decision to no, just because she never invested. But when you get your advisors, make sure if there is a well-known investors or person, they invest some amount in your company. Lead investors sometimes want advisory shares. The reason for that, lead investors, for those who don't know, usually invest majority of your rounds. So if you do the price round, let's say you're raising $500,000, the lead investor usually invests $250K of that round or more. So the lead investor do most of the due diligence on your round, about your startups, you and etc., and to invest and not to invest. And because of that, he usually or she wants some percentage of your company as advisory shares. And the average number that everyone is happy is 0.25% of your company for the advisory shares for pre-seed or seed stage companies. The other benefit of having lead investor in a round, when you close price round, there is a investor's money in a play, and some decision you will need to have approval from investors. With the lead investor, you can meet just with the lead investor and say, hey, we want to do XYZ, or we want to acquire this small company. And if the lead investors give you blessing, he just emails rest of the investor, hey, we did a diligence and we approve that decision. And you just do it. If you don't have lead investor, you need to email and negotiate literally with every single investor individually to have the approval to make a certain decision. And it's pretty daunting task. So there is some benefits of giving the lead investors advisory shares. Most of the advisors familiar with the Founders Institute developed fast agreement. There is a URL below. This is most simple and easy to use advisor agreement that have a provision for vesting schedule, for cliff. You can adjust it. It give you some suggestion on the stage on average percentage of the advisory shares from your company. So if you're not familiar with that, I suggest you to take a look and use it. And it's pretty simple, and it's available for free. You don't need to legal advisors to draft you special advisor agreement. The most important advice for you as a startup founder, when you work with advisors, do not defend your baby. I understand that you invested a lot of blood and sweat in your startup, but most importantly, you need to listen. You should take an advice and follow up with the question why and why not, but do not defend the baby. It's counterproductive, and that's not the reason you got the advisors. And if you doesn't agree with the advisor suggestion, you always can just say no. The advisor will give you advice. You don't need to follow that advice. Thank you so much. And if you let me know if you want to see how the cap table affect the how advisory shares affect your cap table, let me know. I can give you the example as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Pavel. This is great. You said it wasn't your intent was not to inspire, but
yeah,
you inspired anyway. So some questions. There's one from Taylor, and feel free others if you have questions, drop them into the chat. Taylor says, what do you suggest to make sure you're getting the most out of your advisors as possible? Also, how do you keep advisors accountable to what they say they will do if they are an informal advisor?
So if there's informal advisors, you can hold them accountable, period. So basically they available wherever they available, and you get what you get, you don't get upset. If there is a formal advisors, for example, in the Founders Institute agreement, there is a provision that how many times the startup advisor should be available to you. And you can adjust that. So for example, at early stage, it might be like, depends on level of advisor, if it's expert or like there is basically the 3 level in Founders Institute advisor agreement, the low level, medium level, and the expert. And the more shares the startup advisors get, the more involved is basically there have to be attend monthly meeting and etc. However, there is one caveat. So you need to adjust the agreement. For example, you doing some great startup in the computer networking, and you convince like CEO of Sun be your advisor, and he's like CEO of Sun, pretty busy person, and you send him unadjusted startup advisor agreement from Founders Institute where say he needs to attend twice a month meetings in the company. He will not sign it because he doesn't have time. So he might advise you here and there. He might also write you a check, and he should. Basically, if you get the CEO of Sun as your advisor, he needs to write the check. Otherwise, it will be a red flag for the investors. But he will not be able to attend because he's busy, your startup monthly meetings. So you need to be aware of that and adjust your startup advisor agreement accordingly.
Okay. All right. From Eric, how should the advisor payments be staged in tech companies? Then a couple of follow-up questions: is cash versus equity a better choice, and should payment be staged over time? Are these issues covered in forms like the FAST agreement from the Founders Institute?
FAST agreement cover only equity portion, and is basically you allocate the equity. A standard agreement on unmodified is for 2 years. It's for 3 months cliff and 2 years vested. To cancel it, you just there is a provision just to email the advisor that you terminate in the agreement. So if the advisor not performing, simple email will do for terminate relationship. There is a vesting schedule, as I mentioned, for 2 years. You can adjust it for 3 years, so 4 years in agreement, and the shares vested. If you terminate agreement, then the advisor will only hold on the vested shares. With the cash, it's usually you set. It depends on what you want to do for the advisor. So on a cash, it's usually one-time deals. So basically, you need to help, like let's say you hired the UX UI advisor. So you have mock-ups and you need to advisor to help you modify them, make it user-friendly, etc. And in that case, you basically divide payment into 2 parts. You send the first part as a deposit, and then as a cutover when the job is done to your satisfactory.
One of the reasons that you're on here, Pavel, is to share from the trenches. So can you point to a time, without sharing any confidential information, maybe when you've seen some mistakes or lessons learned, maybe an example for us?
From the advisor's standpoint, the biggest mistake founders makes not signing the consulting IP assignment agreement. This is like top number 1. Top number 2 is when they sign Founders Institute Startup Advisor agreement with the advisor, and advisor is not performing, they basically too shy to send email to advisor that the agreement is terminated. So you need to, if you see that startup advisor not performing, you really need to keep the equity in your startups because you have a limited equity. And everyone here is familiar with the capitalization table.
Probably, but is there something specific you want to share about that?
Yeah, just who is not familiar. So basically, I share the screen. Everyone see it?
Yeah.
So basically, the most startup founders do mistake when the assignment do the shares. And for example, if your company have authorized 10 million shares, and you have, let's say, you founder, like you have 1 million shares, you own the 100% of the company. If you have another co-founder, like it's have another 1 million. So when you give the advisors the formal advisor shares, what I mean, it's affect your balance sheet on cap table. So it's you can immediately see how it's affected. So in the regular case, it's basically cap table shows you that total if the shares vested. So That's why it's important when you have a formal advisor that sits on your cap table. And if it started like good and you have the great relationship with the advisor and it's performing, then after 1 year the situation changes, maybe there is a marriage or the baby or etc., and advisors can allocate you a time. So you really need, for example, he worked out of 2 years, 1 year, you really need to terminate agreement and cut the shares, so you will rest of the equity that will go back to your startup, so you can allocate it for other people.
Makes sense. Other questions for Pavel? You can put it in the chat or just come off of mute. Greg put in a question. You mentioned that if advisors that haven't invested money in the business, it's a red flag for VCs. Likewise, if a business has bootstrapped and the founder investor brings in an early executive team to lead the business and gets seed VC investment while the founder steps back, are VCs expecting the executive team to invest money versus being compensated in the equity for their work? Any percentage of ownership they're expecting the leadership team to have?
So most successful startups led by the founders. So, and you can see it example by example, Canva, Facebook, all the successful startups, like plenty right now, they're led by the founders. When the founders leave, it's usually things becomes complicated. When you're starting to, if you, let's say you bootstrap your startup to the Series A level and you want to bring an executive team, it will be a red flag for investors to invest in startup when you leave in the executive role. So it will be hard to invest. So basically, you can, for example, if you CEO, there is a cases, for example, I worked with a startup and the person was visionary and he couldn't do the sales and etc. So he brought the person on board and that happened before he went to VC. So he found the person who became the CEO of the company, who really liked his idea and etc. So he stepped down to the CTO to be basically in the executive team and help the lead technological side of the business. And the CEO led the sales and fundraising. So plus the CEO also get the shares in the company as co-founder of the company. When you join in the startup and get in the shares, you actually need to buy those shares. So like for example, let me share the example of the cap table again. So basically over here, the share, and it will be the purchase price. So for example, at some point, it's like usually when you buy the shares initially, give me 1 second. Initially, the share cost is very low. So when you founder just started the company, the share price can be in US justified 1/10,000th of a cent. So you paying $10 for 1 million shares. When you co-founder joins later on, it might be the higher price. So for example, at the point when for example, your new CEO will join and you want to give him, let's say, 50,000 or 500,000 shares, and at that moment the share price is $1, he will need to put in the company $500,000 for the shares, or it should be on investment stock option plan. So he basically he don't need to put the cash, but he's on a stock option plan. So basically there is a way how you play it, but at the end of the day, the shares will be paid one way or another way for.
Greg, any follow-up question there? Okay, you got a thumbs up. Awesome. Okay. Another one from Taylor. Other benefits to sell someone to become your advisor other than just the equity or compensation? Are there other inducements or things you can offer them? Good ways to attract advisors?
So to attract the advisors, number one is you need to sell the person on vision. So if the person not resonate with your vision, it's you shouldn't really get him as advisor in the first place. So if the and most of the relationship with advisors, in my experience, with the startups I observe, it starts with the just, hey, informal relationship. Hey, what you would do in this case? And the person saying this, this, and this. And I can introduce you to that person. And you basically back and forth like months to with the person a few times. Then you say, hey, you helped me this much. Let's formalize our relationship. You provide the advisors with the agreement to formalize relationship. And at that point, you decide if there's a like equity or cash or both. If there is a cash only, it's usually for your specific needs. So for example, if you need fractional CMO or CFO or UI expertise, or let's say I work with the startup, they need a specific, they were doing the API with some product and they couldn't solve why it doesn't work. So they hired the person and just paid the person to write the specific code to connect with that API. So basically, this is one-time deal. You don't really need to give the equity, but again, it depends on your financial situation. So if you want to conserve cash, then you might consider to put the agreement in place for the equity. And I believe the Founders Institute developed the agreement separate from Founders Institute advisor agreement, that you actually can pay with the equity for work performed.
Awesome. Okay. We've got time for one or two more questions from Eric again. Eric, do you want to just come off of mute and take your question directly?
Mute button. Yeah, so early stage startups, especially I work with the technical ones that they're very technical people, but they're not business people. They don't know what questions to ask. And I mean, they can always hopefully stumble into somebody who's done it before, but are there good resources that, in your experience, can lead them to good startup advisors at various stages? Maybe they're somewhat further along than others, whereas others are just at the beginning and they're thinking about it. What would you recommend to early stage companies to go to find these advisors? So
the best option is to use your own network. This is like super best option, and the LinkedIn is most helpful in that. And you can search by many parameters on LinkedIn. And if on LinkedIn also you can see the connection. Hey, this is second degree connection through that person, so you can ask for the introduction. So this is like number one, I would suggest. The second best was, right now it's more complicated to use, was AngelList. Right now they changed the branding and changed the cool interface. So right now it's severely complicated to use it. So right now, if like best replacement for the AngelList is probably NFX. It's a networking site for investors. Give me 1 second. I will try to put it in the chat room. Yeah, so I put it in the chat room. It's a basic, essentially NFX is to find the investors, but there is a like expertise and everything is listed there, so you can use it for looking for the advisors as well. And the way it works is basically you connect your Gmail account or Google account to the NFX, and it basically scans your account and automatically connects those people. Basically, it shows you what people, based on your emails, it shows you what people you connected directly. And then it's automatically tell you what the degree of separations to other people from your direct contacts.
Interesting. Okay. Last question. I'll make the last question, Pavel. As you think about, again, those lessons learned and some of the mistakes, what's something that you would have told yourself as you were in your first startup or your second startup and looking to either accelerate your growth or avoid some pitfalls when it comes to advisors?
It's basically, I would say I would separate this is in two questions. The first, accelerate your growth, and second, on advisors. Advisors is to accelerate your growth, you need to focus basically not on the fundraising, I would say, you need to focus how to sell your product and get the revenue as early as possible. It's not sustainable to be dependent on the investors. You are starting the company not to be in the business of fundraising continuously. You in the business to be profitable. Even if you non-profit, it's a misconception. The people who start in non-profit, they think it shouldn't be the profitable. The non-profit is just that you don't distribute your profit to the executives. It still needs to generate profits. So in either case, focus number one, how you can sell and how you can sell as fast and do the product that's sellable as fast as possible. When you get to advisors to help you to do that, is basically you need to focus on the port, like if you, let's say if you B2B or B2C, in both cases on a partnership, for example, what organization can I partner with to, and this advisor can help me do that to sell faster. And on that, I actually can give you examples. So I had a friend and he had a company that produced vanities. And basically, he purchased factory in China that produced vanities and wanted to get in the Home Depots here in US, and he didn't know how. So he hired the advisor who have expertise of selling product to the Home Depots and etc. And essentially, the product, like when he started to work with advisors, he shared the process actually simple. You just go to the Home Depot, find the person responsible for procurement in a local store, and you can just start it with the one store. But he didn't know that, so he hired the person. He basically negotiated with him some equities, some cash, to train him how to do the sales to the big box retailer. And after they basically went with this salesperson to the few stores and put the products on the shelf, then he started to do it himself and train his team to do it. So he didn't need to spend more equity for the advisors to go in every Home Depot and help him to sell the product, to put it on the shelf. And in Home Depot specifically, at some point when the product have a low shelf, like go off the shelf fast enough, they start to recommend it to the stores nearby. So when you put it in the store, it's sold, they recommend your product, and eventually you reach to the top of the Home Depot when they put it on a national level, so you can sell. They invite you to the HQ and you can sell on a national level in Home Depot. But it's basically he didn't know that it starts that small from the one store. So that's one of the example of the advisors accelerating growth.
Great example. Very good. The best way for people to connect with you or the Founders Institute, what would that be?
The Founders Institute is just I put the link over here, fi.co, and with me, just use my email, pavel@trustfintech.com.
Very nice. Very nice. Thanks, Pavel, for coming in today. This is a great presentation, a lot of lessons learned. Thanks everyone for joining. If you'd like to stick around, so 2 weeks ago, and this is your invite to leave without offending me at all, so you can just leave if you want to, but 2 weeks ago we had a session where we looked at a few high priority technologies that Summit Venture Studio is interested in potentially commercializing. So I'll drop in to the chat here a list of a few additional technologies. So if you were here 2 weeks ago, you might have seen these. Hannah, you can stop recording.